Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Republicans find common ground on cutting state tax rates and some state tax code. House Republicans move immigration legislation to allow local law enforcement more power. Hello, I'm Kelly McCullum. Thanks so much for watching. Our top story, legislative Republicans and the McCrory administration are touting their new tax legislation as a tax cut bill and a step towards so-called full tax reform. Democrats say they've looked at it. There's little reform and lots of tax cuts for a select few. House and Senate leaders, along with Governor Pat McCrory, reached a compromise on tax legislation they say reflects a step towards full tax reform.
It's a component of some versions of tax reform. I don't think anybody here will say that what we have done is everything you could do in tax reform.
This bill is the jobs bill of this session. In fact, it may be the jobs bill of a generation.
The major portions of this legislation take full effect in 2015. All personal income taxpayers will pay a 5.75% flat income tax rate. Married couples filing jointly will receive a $15,000 standard deduction. Heads of households will receive a $12,000 deduction, and single filers a $7,500 deduction. Taxpayers' mortgage and property tax deductions are capped under this bill at $20,000, but charitable contributions are fully deductible. Social Security income is exempt from state income taxes, and the state's child tax credit increases 25% for middle-class tax filers.
When the minority was in charge, that wasn't the order of the day. I sat back in the back of this chamber and saw tax increase after tax increase after tax increase, and we wonder why our state got into part of the economic mess it was in. We were given a mess that we've had to clean up, and we're in the process of doing that.
It's a tax cut for the wealthy and the out-of-state corporations at the expense of the middle class and working people of this state. Plain and simple. You have done us a favor. You've done us two here in the last week, in that you finally have engaged the governor to where he's having to take a stand.
Corporate income tax rates will drop to 6% in 2014 before flattening at 6% beginning in 2015. Corporate income taxation has been a sticky topic during negotiations. The Senate proposed phasing out all corporate income taxes. It's reported the governor opposed a complete phase-out over worries it would too drastically reduce state revenues. The compromise sets an economic trigger. If the Republican tax changes increase state revenue and grow the state's economy above certain targets, the corporate income tax rate would drop by 2017.
Americans for Tax Reform predicts that this plan would result in our state going from a ranking of 44th in total tax burden to 17th in tax burden and best business climate for the nation.
Current state law does not require nonprofit organizations to pay the sales tax, and this tax law coming in will protect that tax exemption up to $31 million. Private citizens, you will see more services taxed under the state sales tax. Entertainment tickets, warranties, and service contracts will be assessed the sales tax rate. Democrats are seizing on the sales tax changes, saying you can cut middle-income income tax rates, but the sales tax expansion will eat up any benefits of a tax cut.
To conduct themselves with such utter arrogance, to give tax increases to so many North Carolinians and label it as something the people want without letting them be heard is the height of arrogance. And that is what we're dealing with now.
There is equally no question that the proposal put out is not tax reform, but strictly a tax cut for the wealthy at the expense of schools and universities, community colleges, and public safety in this state. And it is hardly tax reform. It is nothing but a tax shift.
The tax plan will also end North Carolina's estate tax and temporarily cap the state's gasoline tax. The state code changes are expected to reduce future state revenue growth by over $2 billion in coming years. It sparks a debate from Democrats who say that will starve the state, while Republicans counter state revenue will continue growing, just not as fast as if taxes were not changed.
The general fund of the budget will see a drop off in revenue of $2.5 billion over the next 5 years. What does that say about our ability to continue to educate our children, to improve the infrastructure in the state, to keep up with our obligations?
This plan also provides reasonable revenue growth for our state to fund this state and our growing population over the next few years.
With the tax reform discussion settled for now, attention focuses on passing a final compromise state budget. Stephanie Hawko with News Radio 680 WPTF in Raleigh has also been following tax reform. The deal's done. Is the state entering an era of a truly reformed tax structure?
Well, that's the question, of course. We've been hearing a lot this week about whether this is tax reform, is it a tax shift, is it tax cuts? Of course, one of the Republican members said on the floor Wednesday, we're Republicans. Of course we want to be tagged with the idea that we passed a tax cuts bill. But we've heard a lot from Democrats saying this is really just shifting the burden to the low-income and middle-class North Carolinians, and they feel like that is not the right direction to go.
Is it rhetoric or is it facts that both sides can claim success if you're a Republican in cutting taxes, or we told you so if you're a Democrat opposing tax reform?
Well, that's probably in the eye of the beholder, I guess. I mean, there's usually a little bit of truth on both sides, right? I mean, the Republicans can say we're lowering personal income tax rates, we're lowering corporate income tax rates, so they believe they've got reform in those areas. But it's been interesting because Senator Berger, Representative Lewis have all said this week, this is a first step. It's a significant step, but it's not the only one that we need to take towards tax reform. They've talked about bringing something back in a year or two and having even more of this going on. So in their sense, certainly this is tax reform. The Democrats are saying, we're shifting the burden, we're just moving things around a little bit, and we're giving breaks to, as we've heard the argument many times before on other issues, wealthy North Carolinians and large out-of-state corporations who might want to come in here and create jobs in North Carolina rather than the companies who are already here that might want to expand.
Help me straighten out the debate down here, especially among Republicans, because you and I are listening to speech after speech after speech. The governor called this bill bold and all the things that we heard a tax reform package would be back in January. Mm-hmm. Phil Berger in the same press conference says, this is a step. Bob Rucho says itty bitty step, and now rank and file House people this week say, Republicans say this is a tax cut bill. Is there disagreement about the level of tax, quote, reform?
Yeah, it certainly sounds like there is. I mean, you hear everything from, as you said, we're inching forward. We're taking significant steps forward. The governor's saying this is a bold plan. It's something that hasn't been done in 80 years in North Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And of course, we have many years to see how this is going to play out as, these changes go into effect. So it does seem like there's some disagreement about this. I mean, certainly you heard Bob Rucho the other day saying that this was not exactly what he had intended, of course. That big expansion of the sales tax did not happen. So we don't have that broader base of revenue coming in. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But certainly it looks like there could be some disagreement within the ranks about exactly how expansive and effective this is going to be.
How easily can you explain the concept Republicans are putting out there saying, yes, we're cutting tax rates for corporations and the wealthy, that is happening, and it's merely going to slow government revenue growth as opposed to being a cut, which Democrats are calling it cuts. Mm-hmm. How do you explain that easily for someone who doesn't follow budget talk?
And that would be a lot of people right outside of Jones Street, sure. One of the things that Senator Berger said the other day is you have to assume that we're not going to spend all of the money we have, right? They're not going to go out and spend every single dime. So he's saying in those terms, we're going to slow down government spending, we're going to have this extra revenue coming in, and of course the plan would be over the next couple of years to accelerate that. So That's where we are, I believe.
And we have Medicaid education funding coming up. The one unknown factor will be the Medicaid funding situation. I have not heard that discussed as part of tax reform. Do Republicans have Medicaid under control so they can make these projections?
It seems like Medicaid has been a nagging problem, hasn't it? And I feel like every time we turn around, we're looking at a couple $100 more million here, a couple $100 million there. You know, pretty soon you're talking about real money, as they say, right? So Medicaid, I think, is really a really tough nut to crack right now. The governor certainly is on this, Secretary Vaush, and so I think we're seeing, you know, a lot of work done towards reforming this, but it looks like it's going to be a long battle, I think, because there were so many things that were inherited from the Perdue administration that really have to be fixed up now. A lot of failure to project budgets and that type of thing. So it sounds like this could be a bind for a little while.
Listen to Stephanie Hawko on News Radio 680 WPTF in Raleigh, and it goes to a whole lot of other counties. Thank you, Stephanie, for being on the show.
Thank you.
House Speaker Tom Tillis says a final state budget bill will very likely be released online this weekend. He told the full House on Thursday to expect a floor vote this coming Tuesday. Budget talks were finalized after the tax policy bill passed earlier this week. Senate Republicans released their voter ID proposal this week. The Senate bill offers different types of valid IDs from the House version of this bill. UNC system and community college IDs, as well as employer ID cards, would not be accepted by the Senate. Multi-partisan teams would help our nursing home residents vote, and the Senate deletes the House's proposed Voter Identification Verification Act board. The Senate bill would phase in voter ID in North Carolina between 2014 and 2016. The bills would be reconciled if they're to become law. The House approved modified immigration legislation that empowers local law enforcement officers, tightens ID theft provisions, but scraps a plan to offer undocumented immigrants a restricted driver's permit. The full House approved immigration legislation this week. Its supporters say their proposals do not involve the state in federal immigration matters, but would enforce existing state laws often broken by undocumented or illegal immigrants.
The bill acknowledges that the government is making overtures to reform our guest worker programs and our immigration laws and process, but in the interim seeks to address the criminal activity in the state that's being performed by folks that are here legally and illegally.
The legislation would authorize a legislative study of whether or not to create a restricted driver's permit for illegal immigrants. One of those permits and an auto insurance policy would let undocumented residents legally drive in North Carolina, but offer no other legal protections. The bill increases penalties for identity theft, requires employers to verify full-time applicants through E-Verify, and it makes undocumented immigrants reimburse the state for incarceration costs if they're convicted of a crime.
Any unpaid reimbursement could be set off against any NC income tax refund due the prisoner, and the Department of Revenue may pursue collection of the debt through set-off for a period of at least 10 years from the time of the prisoner's release or until the debt is satisfied. A portion of any funds earned by the prisoner through work release could also be deducted to reimburse the state for the actual cost of the prisoner's incarceration.
No House Democrats spoke during the bill's full House floor debate, but the modified Reclaim Act enjoyed a vast bipartisan support, passing with a near 60-vote majority. The bill heads to the Senate. Representative Harry Warren has been running immigration legislation, I think, a couple of years now. You finally got a bill across the finish line. Is it what you wanted?
Well, the bill is what I wanted. The form that it's in right now is not what we started out for. That really took place yesterday, the way that came about. But the bill and the contents in it is something that's been well crafted over it'll be a year tomorrow that we started working on that bill.
What made a special restricted driver's permit for undocumented or illegal immigrants something your colleagues could not follow you on? They chose to study the issue rather than take action.
Well, part of that could be marketing. Part of it may be the way that it's presented to the public, and particularly at this point of development to my colleagues. The permit itself is a very unique product. When you look at the other 10 or 11 states who either have been doing this for years, like Utah's been doing this since 2005, when you compare that to Utah and you compare that to the other states who have just recently, in May, we had several states just pass a similar type of driving privilege. This is very unique in that we require in this bill a criminal background check, fingerprinting, prepaid insurance, proof of identity, proof of residence a year prior to April 1st. There's a lot of things built into that make it unique and help prevent it from being a magnet.
Now, will all those small provisions be studied by legislators and then you'll come back with something, or are they just going to look at the philosophy of a driving permit, whether it's a good idea or an idea they don't want to follow?
Well, what the bill calls for at this point, the amendment calls for that to be go to a study committee that will be basically under Department of Public Safety. And it instructs them to look at, to confer with the Department of Insurance to see what the impact will be on the insurance aspect of it and the uninsured driver's accidents. What would be the impact if we suddenly have tens of thousands of people being insured on the road now? And then from the public safety aspect, from the DPS, having them look at how that would impact not just the driver's part of it, but the other provisions that everybody seems to have ignored about the bill.
You think they'll give you a fair shake, or will they reflect whatever Governor McCrory might would want?
Well, that's an interesting question, but I think they'd give it a fair shake, because ultimately your findings from any committee are subject to question, and I would certainly question them.
What is not being studied? What would be implemented, or other aspects? ID theft would be stiffened.
Exactly.
If you're using IDs to lie about your residency. What about kids who get caught with the ID to drink a beer, buy cigarettes? Are they facing these same felony charges as someone who's trying to steal an identity to stay in the country?
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because everybody, like I said, it seems to have not focused. They've just focused on the driver's permit and have kind of ignored or bypassed the rest of the bill. But it is a law enforcement public safety bill. That's what it's about. It's not really about enforcing immigration laws or attacking people here illegally. It's about addressing criminal activity. I mean, parts of the bill, like the confiscation of automobiles, that applies to folks who are citizens who are driving on revoked license. But we have a caveat in the Section 2 that you're referring to, the manufacturing and sale of counterfeit documents. That would be taken from where it is currently a Class 1 misdemeanor to a Class H felony. And there is a caveat in there for the rites of passage for folks who are youngsters who are basically falsifying a document, altering a document to get a pack of cigarettes or a case of beer.
You think your colleagues will buy in more on this bill once they sat on it for several months, see the results of this study?
Well, that'll certainly give us more time to socialize the bill and all the other aspects of it, and the deeper meanings behind provisions like the driver's permit, which has been the real hang-up for them. And how is that going to play back home? It takes a while. We get all of our information as Americans, we get it on the run. If we could, we get our news in the drive-through. But so we need the time to be able to explain to folks that this is not a give me. This is a requirement. If you look at the language of the bill, this isn't an option. This is a requirement. You've got to come out. If you're here illegally, you're required to come out and apply for either the driver's permit if you're going to drive, or a restricted North Carolina ID. But
watch for the study, and we'll be watching. Maybe have you back on when this bill rears its head again in the next several months from now. Representative Harry Warren, welcome to North Carolina, or Legislative Week in Review, and I appreciate you being on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the time.
Another charter school bill received final approval this week to help charter schools expand operation and access to families with multiple kids seeking charter school slots. Going forward, charter schools can expand their operations, their student body populations, by up to 20% a year and add one grade level without seeking State Board of Education support. They may also set aside up to 15% of their student seats for full-time employees. House Republicans boosted charter schools by passing legislation that will make it easier for charters to expand operations. Current policy requires charter school campuses to seek state permission before adding grades the schools hope to serve. The new state law will let charters expand student population by up to 20% every year and add one grade level annually without seeking State Board of Education approval.
The members are trying to represent the best interest of their community, and they've brought forth this bill to address a problem, and I think it's reasonable for us to support them in that effort.
Democrats say the charter school policy will attack our traditional public schools, one grade and one school year at a time.
There are school systems in this state, particularly small systems with very small high schools, that could be very negatively impacted by this. There is a lawsuit pending in Pamlico County over this.
I'm very uncomfortable with us inserting ourselves into a process that's been in litigation, as well as from what I've heard in debate here about the impact on small counties.
The pending charter school law carries multiple facets, including a focus on student diversity, beginning with a new charter school's second year of operations. Families with a kid in one charter school could get priority enrollment for younger siblings as they come along and seek enrollment. And charters could also offer up to 15% of its seats to children of full-time employees. The charter school expansions will begin with the 2013 academic school year. Lawmakers have approved stripping Charlotte of its control of Charlotte Douglas International Airport. The airport operates as a city government department, but Republican legislators and some consultants have said an independent airport authority would give surrounding counties some leadership of the multi-billion-dollar regional, not city asset. The State House gave final approval to legislation this week that will remove the City of Charlotte's management of the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, replacing it with a new regional airport authority. Republicans say they've been reaching out to Charlotte city officials to study the issue as a commission, but have been rejected every step of the way.
We tried again this weekend to bring them to the table, and they refused. I will give credit to our interim mayor, Mayor Patsy Kinsey, that she did give it her best effort to try to get them to consent to the study, but they have, at this point, as of 9-something this morning, still are not willing to participate with us in a study.
Mecklenburg County Democratic Representative Becky Carney says there are no problems with the airport or its management, and there are no reasons to remove the city's oversight of its operations and assets. She says legislators should create that special commission, start the process over, and study the issue of creating a regional authority. She also says distrust is now rampant between Charlotte officials and legislative Republicans.
The question of whether there should be an authority has never been addressed. It's never been addressed here. It's never been addressed at the city in an organized fashion.
Mecklenburg County Democratic Representative Kelly Alexander warned of lawsuits that could be filed against the state, with the outcome costing the state billions of dollars.
Any litigation over valuation, over compensation, is litigation that could generate a $10 billion liability.
Why should the city give up their most profitable asset? The question contains its own answer. Under both federal law, FAA regulations, and their own description of the way this works, it's not supposed to be producing money for the taxpayers of the city of Charlotte.
The work to create a regional airport authority and shift the assets of that airport away from Charlotte would begin immediately, and the bill would require the city to offer local government employees to help with the transition. The House approved legislation supporting but limiting terminal groin use in North Carolina inlets. A pilot project to track 4 terminal groins will proceed. Supporters say these devices will protect inlets and not be allowed to restrict natural sand migration.
Terminal groins are built to the edge of the sand. They do not block the movement of sand in the water, and they are pre-filled with beach quality sand. So what they basically do is stop erosion from an inlet that is moving back and forth due to the Intracoastal Waterway.
The House passed a resolution this week telling the U.S. Congress to support the right to bear arms. It sparked a fresh yet old debate over gun rights, politics, and what it means to be a Second Amendment supporter. House Resolution 63 makes a statement on behalf of the entire state House of Representatives, but Republicans mostly. It demands that federal politicians support the Second Amendment, or the right to bear arms.
This particular resolution is focused on the federal government, not the state government. We're not turning a blind eye to the North Carolina Constitution. What we're telling our federal elected officials is not to turn a blind eye to the U.S. Constitution.
Some House Democrats debated the resolution. They questioned the scope of the entire bill, saying they support the Second Amendment, but not necessarily the public's right to own just any weapon a person chooses.
And I firmly believe in Second Amendment rights. I'm an avid hunter, but I do know that certain assault weapons ought to be banned. This is for the military.
the very reason the Second Amendment was placed into our Constitution is because someday, and I don't think it's going to be in our day, I certainly hope not, but there might be a time when the people might have to fight for their freedom again against the government. That's why the Second Amendment primarily is there.
Others say the resolution turns too partisan because it names the U.S. president and vice president in the language.
The idea is a legitimate idea, but I think it was politicized by trying to direct it toward the vice president and the president of the United States, specifically named by title, and then everyone else named as a part of Congress.
But conservatives say their resolution is easy to understand and its intent is clear.
If you can't support this resolution, what can you support? You either support the Constitution or you don't. It says a resolution expressing support for the preservation and defense of the Constitution. What is wrong with that?
With one conservative saying the resolution is crystal clear, another Democrat, Representative Greer Martin in this case, rose to say the resolution is vague as our federal gun rights debate is multifaceted.
What message are we sending to our legislators in D.C. to protect our rights, but we're not telling them what that means? Should they maintain the federal prohibition on automatic weapons, or is that something that we're trying to convey with this resolution that we want them to repeal? It's not clear. It seems to me to be a meaningless resolution, and I'll be voting against it.
The House resolution is not legally binding on the state and certainly not on the federal government, yet it does make a political statement that North Carolina is gun owner friendly. The Senate has approved the House bill creating educational scholarships for special needs students. These scholarships are worth $6,000 a school year to qualifying families, regardless of whether or not they pay taxes. The scholarships would fund daily special education services outside of the public schools. Find us online this weekend on Facebook at facebook.com/legweek. On Twitter, you can follow us at @LegWeekInReview or email us directly at legweek@unctv.org. We expect the season to wind down next week. We'll see you then.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.